threw a silk ball to pick a husband, and it smacked a stable boy right in the face. I was literally aiming for the top scholar, but I had a reputation to protect, so I had no choice but to swallow my pride and let him move into my family's home. I thought he was crude and beneath me, unsure he had the looks, but that was it. So I took out every bit of my frustration on him. I gave him a name, Dumb Egg. I refused to let him anywhere near me. Winter, he slept in the stable. Summer, he got the woodshed. On good days, I'd make him lie flat on the ground, dip my feet in ink, and paint on his back. On bad days, I'd just step on his face. Basically, if there was a way to humiliate someone, I did it. But he never cried, never got mad, just let me do whatever I wanted. After a while, I actually started feeling a little guilty. Like, I was a pretty rich psychopath. A month ago, I got kidnapped by bandits and drugged. He came charging in on horseback to save me. And honestly, he looked incredible that day. One thing led to another, and we ended up sleeping together. I think I might actually have feelings for him. I'd think about him when I woke up. Think about him when I closed my eyes. I decided he had to be some kind of enchanting demon, so naturally I got embarrassed, got angry, and kicked him back to the stable. Before, sending him to the stable made me feel powerful. Now I was sneaking out just to go stare at him. The man was literally living in my house, and somehow I had caught feelings. Today was his birthday. I made him a bowl of longevity noodles with my own hands, and I had a surprise for him. He was going to be a dad. But when I got to the stable, I found out the truth. He was the emperor and empress's only child, a prince who'd been separated from the palace during wartime. Dumb Egg was actually the crown prince. And apparently he already had a betrothed waiting for him, the crown princess. Beautiful, from a powerful family, the most accomplished woman in the capital. Literature, music, chess, painting, she did it all. He was going back to marry her. My family's stable was already surrounded by imperial guards. The second they spotted me lurking around, a blade was at my throat. "How dare you, peasant! Bow before the crown prince!" A wave of sadness hit me out of nowhere. I didn't bow. Instead, I risked getting my head cut off to gently reach out and hold his hand. "Are you really the crown prince? What is it today, Miss Shen? Looking for another way to torment me?" The rough cloth clothes he used to wear were gone, replaced by a flowing jet-black robe, rich and commanding. Everything about him screamed untouchable royalty. He pulled his hand away from mine like he couldn't stand the contact. "Don't worry, Miss Shen. Once I return to the capital, I'll have your divorce papers sent over." My eyes burned like someone had splashed hot sauce in them. I didn't come here to torment him. I came to celebrate his 22nd birthday. I wanted to tell him there was a little dumb egg growing inside me. I wanted to tell him I didn't want to let him go. If he didn't want to stay, I was willing to follow him to the capital. But he wouldn't even let me hold his hand. And he was handing me divorce papers. I was 18 years old and already a divorcee, and I finally got it. He hated me. He wasn't going to want me or the baby. He was going to live out his perfect life with his crown princess and have a whole palace full of royal kids. And me, Shen Yuchu? I was just the psycho who'd made his worst days even worse. Seeing me still standing there frozen, he condescended to ask me one more question. I wanted to give him the longevity noodles I'd made. But after everything I'd done to him, things no decent person would do, him not having me executed was already mercy. There was no way he'd eat anything made by my hands. I was terrified he'd take revenge on my whole family, so I didn't say a word. I just shook my head, eyes red. He let out a cold, mocking scoff, mounted his horse, and never looked back. My chest felt hollow all of a sudden. I stood there for a long time before my legs gave out and I collapsed. Almost lost the baby right there. And things only got worse. 3 days after he left Liangzhou, my father was accused of plotting against a high-ranking official and dragged to the capital. My mom and I refused to believe it. We rushed there, only to find out he'd already been convicted and was set to be executed in a month. We went to see him in prison. He swore he'd been framed. In just 2 weeks, my once strong, sharp father had wasted away to almost nothing. My mom cried so hard I thought she'd go blind. She used to carry herself with such grace and light, and now that light was completely gone. Then my mom suddenly grabbed my hand, eyes frantic. "Yuchu, go find Dumb. Find the crown prince. Ask him for help. You two were together for 2 years. He even called your father father-in-law. He won't just let him die. Yuchu, please. Mom is begging you." I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth, that the crown prince and I had never had a loving relationship. And I definitely couldn't tell her that on my happy days, I made him wade into freezing water to catch fish for me. And during my bad days, I whipped him over and over. Why would he ever help me? If anything, he'd been waiting for my karma to hit. But I couldn't watch the last flicker of hope in my mom's eyes go dark. So I grabbed my favorite little gold whip and went to stand outside the crown prince's estate. Worst case, he beats me to death in return. I still couldn't just watch my dad get beheaded. Back when he was Dumb Egg, I said go east, he went east. I wanted him on his knees, he'd kneel. Now I realized, just getting a moment with him was nearly impossible. I waited from morning until dusk. Snow had piled up on my little gold whip by the time I finally saw him riding toward me. He'd always been unfairly handsome. But now, draped in an expensive fur coat, he looked like a god who'd stepped down from the heavens. He dismounted, and his cold, sharp gaze landed directly on the whip in my hand. "Which hand was it that you used to whip me with, Miss Shen?" I was already shaking from the cold. Hearing that voice, not a single drop of warmth in it. My lips wouldn't stop trembling. I was pretty sure he was about to cut off my hands. And which foot was it that you used to step on me? The guards behind him drew their swords in one swift motion. The blades gleamed. I was terrified they'd actually chop off my hands and feet. I tried to step back, but my feet had gone completely numb. I stumbled forward and fell straight into his chest. His chest was warm. And instantly, my mind went back to that night. The way he'd held me close, his voice soft and coaxing. My eyes went red without warning, and like an absolute idiot, I looked up at him and asked, "Your Highness, can you please save my father?" He raised one hand and lazily hooked a finger under the tie of my cloak. "So you threw yourself at me, all to get me to save Shen Nanshan?" A slow smirk. "Fine. Let's see if the infamous Miss Shen has what it takes to please me." And just like that, he picked me up and carried me straight into the Crown Prince's estate, tossing me onto his bed. A white fox fur robe came down over me, and he had me pinned before I could blink. He was so unbelievably strong. Getting thrown onto that bed sent a sharp pain shooting through my lower back. The way he moved was too much. I lost my temper, couldn't hold it in, and swung my little gold whip at him. He ripped it right out of my grip. His lips curved into a cold, mechanical smile, emotionless, distant, his dark eyes radiating the kind of authority that made you feel small. "This is how you ask someone for a favor, Miss Shen?" The whip dropped from my hand and hit the floor. The way he looked at me was ice cold, like a frozen ink pool, slowly swallowing everything inside me, and it hit me all over again. He was no longer the dumb egg I could push around. He was the Crown Prince. One flick of his finger and my entire family was done. "Please me. If you manage to satisfy me, maybe, just maybe, I'll be generous enough to spare your father's life." Please him. An ache spread through me that I couldn't name. I looked down and gently touched my still flat belly. The day he left for the capital, I'd started bleeding. The baby barely made it. The doctor said the pregnancy was unstable. There was still a risk of miscarriage. For the first 3 months especially, I couldn't get emotionally overwhelmed, couldn't do anything physically intense, and absolutely could not be intimate with anyone. I was terrified of bleeding again. I was terrified of losing this baby. Even if he didn't want it, I did, but he was asking me to please him, and this was my only shot at saving my dad. "That reluctant, huh?" He let out a short, dismissive laugh. "I don't believe in forcing people. If you're that unwilling, fine. You can just wait a month and collect your father's body." My eyes ached, stuffed full of tears I couldn't let out. I wanted to tell him. I was pregnant. My body had been through too much lately. I couldn't do this. But I was too scared to tell him about the baby. Xunyang, the girl I grew up with, had once saved a broke scholar off the street. They fell for each other hard. Right before he left for the capital exams, she got pregnant. He ended up getting caught in an arranged marriage to a high-ranking official's daughter. When he found out Xunyang was carrying his child, he was terrified it would ruin his future. So he had someone force-feed her something to end the pregnancy. Just a low-level official. And once he had a wealthy new woman,